when I reached out to the French embassy, Dr. Jerome and Dr. Ambika were courteous enough to say that yes, we'll definitely want to participate at RISE and be there. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. And I think you've previously been here once, with Dr. Jerome, and you visited our Innovation Center. You hope for many more interactions, and also, what are the opportunities for partnerships with France. Most of our student leaders also are here. They can carry forward the message to all the others. Dr. Anupama Ambika Anilkumar is the Scientific Coordinator, Embassy of France, dedicated to the south of India. She obtained a PhD in cell biology from the National Center for Biological Sciences in Bangalore, and she did a postdoctoral research at St. John's Research Institute in Koramangala, Bangalore, in collaboration with the University of Cambridge, UK, in diabetes and research. May I now request you to come and present.
Bonjour and good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank Karthik and Ramesh for inviting me here. And I've been to as Karthik said, it's my second time on this campus, and it's a very lovely campus, and the first time that I get to interact with students, because I want to, I have actually a program for you guys, so which I will tell in the end, but I think to start with, I will start with the kind of things that we have to offer for PhD students in France, the kind of fellowships and the kind of programs and how to apply to France for a PhD program. And then jointly with the Indian government, what do we offer in terms of fellowships and programs, and from the embassy side, what we do to foster this environment where we can bring entrepreneurs and researchers together, both from academia and startups and big establishment companies, and get all these people on board, and how we can build an ecosystem and help build an ecosystem rather. So I'm Ambika, and I'm the scientific coordinator at the Embassy of France, and along with Jerome, I manage the south of India. So we mainly do academic cooperations. And I would like to bring a bit of information to your notice so that you can share it with your friends, even if it's not applicable to you. Right now, the main objective of our government is to have as many international students as possible in France, because particularly from India, because from India there's a lot of students who are actually willing to apply to US, UK, Australia, and all these countries, mainly because of the language also. I mean, there are a lot of good universities. There are good universities in France also. But I think there's a certain level of fear in everyone that whether the courses would be in French, whether I have to learn in French and things like that. So I would like to clarify one point here, that other than psychology, sociology, social science, humanities, and medicine, all the other courses are offered in English. So even if you're doing a PhD in France, all the procedures, including your defense, is going to be in English. It's only the abstract of your thesis which is going to be in French, which you just have to write down, and you can take anybody's help, even Google Translator's help, to translate it and write it down. So you don't have to worry about the language restriction if you want to do a PhD or a master's in France. And France is great for the universities, and I would also like to show you here that there are a number of French companies who you can access from India and then do internship in France as well. So actually here in India there are around 1,000 French companies, but I don't know how many of you know that there are so many French companies in India, and there are around over 3 lakhs workers who are actually employed by the French companies here in India. And these are some of the companies that are listed. Probably you would have seen some of them. I mean, Airbus is quite a popular company, Alstom, and you have Dassault Aviation and L'Oreal, and I mean there's so many companies. And one good thing that I have speaking in this campus is because you have AI and machine learning, and most of these companies require this expertise of yours in different contexts. So I was actually having a conversation with Ramesh, which was very interesting, because I think it's important to find out your problems that you want to address rather than copying the same problem, because if you're just going to copy some technology or something which is already done in another country, then it might not really be working well with you, in the long run, if you want to think. So India has so many diversity. So I think you should make use of this diversity in the problems also when you're designing your questions. And while you are working on it right from your undergrad, you can probably put in these problems in your questions so that by the end of it, your transition is quite smooth. And France is actually doing very well in agriculture. And also I would like to show you the rough structure of a bachelor's, master's and a doctorate. So there you have the first panel. The upper panel is India and here it's France. So here in India, if you're doing engineering, the bachelor's typically for 4 years. And then you have a 2-year master followed by a PhD for 5 to 7 years, depending on the question and everything. But if you equate it with France, we have something called a licence, and that is for 3 years, and then you have a 2-year master and followed by a 3-year PhD, maximum 4 years, but that's like an extension, but mostly the PhD is supposed to be for 3 years. And so how can you now look for a PhD program or a master's program? So if you are looking for a bachelor's or a master's program, we have our wing, Campus France, which will help you connect to the universities, and also they will help you with the entire visa process, because that is one major thing when you're shifting for studies to another country. It's not like you're going on a tourist visa, so you need to know about what kind of documents you require and things like that. So Campus France is always there to help you, give free counseling sessions for you to pick the correct universities, and also they will help you correspond to these universities. And they also have an online portal where actually you can look up at the PhD level, and also if you want to do a postdoctoral research, there are options for that, and then you can have filters for the amount of money you can get and what field you want to do in, and then a lot of proposals which are posted by the professors would come up on this online portal, and then you can apply to them directly. So there are a bunch of fellowships which the Embassy of France is offering to master students. And so the major program is the Sharpak program that is present for masters and bachelors. So Sharpak is actually broken into 3 categories. One is the master's program that they would finance an entire master program for 1 to 2 years in France. And the other is an exchange program. So if your lab or if your professor has an ongoing collaboration with somebody in France, then you can go there and work for some months, like a semester typically, that is like around 4 months, and your counterpart can come back to India. So it's a nice way of exchanging ideas and exchanging culture between the 2 countries, and that's also funded, and you can actually see how much is the funding. And next one is a research internship program. This is again applied to both bachelors and masters, where you want to spend like 2-3 months of your time to understand the kind of research in France, and then come back. So this is like a summer internship program where you have the semester breaks here. You can just go to France and then do your research and come back. So one major advantage of going through all these programs is that, I mean, these are very prestigious programs and highly competitive, but once you have them, and if you spend a part of your masters in France, you would actually come across a lot of people who are working in companies, in industries, as well as in academia. So you will have a good exposure to all these things before, and you can actually interact with them and then reapply to their labs for your PhD. So once you have that strong interactions, it's always easier to apply, because there is no set program for application in France. The way you would apply is to have your CV and your statement of purpose ready, and then you directly write to the lab in which you are interested in, and never send a research proposal, which is the biggest mistake that everyone does here. So it's always a CV and the statement of purpose, which is tailor-made for that particular lab. That's what you have to do. You can't just generally write a very generic statement of purpose saying that I'm good, I'm sincere, and so on and so forth. You have to actually put a lot of effort in writing this 1-page write-up, which is very crisp, and then put it across to the faculty. So if they have the funding and space in their lab, they will contact you back, and there will be an interview either through Skype, or they might even fund your trip to France and then ask you to come for an interview. So once the faculty selects you, then that's it. But some of the universities have something called a doctoral committee, which is like a committee who also have to say yes to your admission into the PhD program. In that case, they will have a separate interview with you, but then it's ultimately the PI who decides whether you should be present in his lab or not. And there's a lot of PIs who have funding of their own. So even if you don't have a fellowship of your own for your PhD, the PI can fund you for your entire 3 years. Because without funding, without fellowship or funding from your PI, you really cannot do a PhD in France. You won't get a visa. Okay? And yeah, so the Campus France site is really nice to look up at the different opportunities, the different universities that are present in France, and then look at the stream in which you are interested in for research. So if you want to contact the Campus France in Bangalore, it's Kusha Kakkar. She's the manager for Bangalore Campus France. And you can just give her a call and then fix up an interview and just go and speak to her. Even if you have not really seriously decided that you want to go to this particular university, you can just have a chat with her to know as to what you can do for your master's program. And this I think I already covered that. Yeah, so in social science and humanities, the PhD is somewhat like in India, it's for like 4 to 5 years, but there you need to really know French. You need to have at least B2 level of French. But for all the other branches, except for medicine in science, and which includes data science, machine learning and all this, everything is in English. Yeah. So yeah, I've covered all that. So this is the site I was telling you, the Campus France portal, where you can actually look at your doctoral programs, and you can actually give in this boxes what kind of PhD are you looking for, and depending on the filter that you're going to set in, you will have these kind of different hiring calls from the PIs. The title will be there, the salary will be there, and then if it requires French, they would mention that also, so you can filter that out as well if you're not interested in learning French. Another website which actually would give you idea about the PhD in France is Association Bernard Gregory. This is also an online portal where you have all these hiring calls. So it will also be good to look at these also if you're interested to do a PhD in France. And so PhD scholars also have some scholarships instituted by CEFIPRA. So I don't know whether you have heard of CEFIPRA. CEFIPRA is the Indo-French Center for the Promotion of Advanced Research. So CEFIPRA offers fellowships in different fields of research. So I think what you would be interested in is in mathematical and computational sciences. The others, and engineering sciences maybe. And so you can apply for this, and this is only for a short term. While doing your PhD in India. So if your PI knows somebody in France, you can actually collaborate with them. And if your interests and the interests of the lab in France are complementary, then you have a better chance of applying for this fellowship. This is for 2 to 6 months, and you get a very decent pay for around 1,500 euros per month during this fellowship. And so the thing is, from India, it's quite competitive because there are a lot of people who are applying for the Raman Sharpak fellowship, but it's also an exchange fellowship. So people from France who want to work in the Indian labs can also apply. And unfortunately, we don't have that many applications from France coming to India. So if any of the labs are looking for students to come to their from France to their lab in India for a short term, you can always ask them to apply for this, and most probably they will get this fellowship because we don't have enough applicants. So yeah, another fellowship which would help you work in France for around 10 months during your PhD is the IFIL scholarship. So IFIL scholarship is not given only for Indians to come to France, it's given to all the countries to come and work in France. But then what we have found is that there's a general trend that most of the people who have got this fellowship are from India. So Indians have a very high chance of getting this fellowship. So this is again, it works through collaboration. If you know a lab already in France, or if your PI knows a lab already in France, you can apply for this fellowship program, and the duration is 10 months. So you will get actually a good exposure of French research and culture through this. So again, so the thing is that in France, it's a very dynamic thing to work with industry. So there's a lot of opportunity, there are a lot of workshops which are being held for researchers to get involved in industrial R&D. So if you go there even for a span of 10 months, you can actually attend these workshops. These workshops are very free by nature. So you don't have to pay any money. You can just go and sit in these workshops and meet people. So there you will get a lot of exposure to see how people make this smooth transition of going from academic research into more applied research. So that is a good opportunity. So at the same time, you are doing your PhD in India. So if you are doing your PhD here at IIIT-B, then you can actually apply for this fellowship, and you have to make sure that this fellowship application has to come through the university in France. So you have to contact them and they have to apply on your behalf for you to go there. And so I just wanted to say that why you have to choose, why you should choose France, or why France is a good choice. This is that because we spent a lot of money on research. You can actually see it's around 2.24% of your of the country's GDP that you put in, and the number of researchers in France is around more than 4 lakhs. And compare that to India, because France doesn't have a huge population. So the density of researchers are much higher, so that you can see that in France we actually promote a lot of research, and you have a lot of publications. Obviously we know that France is the 4th highest index of impact factor in the world, and there are tons of Nobel Prizes. We have like 65 Nobel Prizes and 12 field medals. And and there are a lot of agencies actually which actually promote research, both from academia, and so these are all agencies which encourages you to do very high quality R&D, even if you're coming from an academic background. So you have different kinds of people working in all these sectors. There are people coming from academia, there are people coming from companies. So it's like a very nice amalgamation of the academia and industry that you can see in France. And France also encourages a lot of international researchers, because around 17% of the researchers are from outside France. And you can also see that around 41%, which is a huge percentage to have international doctoral researchers. And we have several public agencies in France, like INRA and INSERM and CNRS, which actually fund research. So most of the institutes that you would come across in France will be either INRA, INSERM or CNRS. So yeah, and also you can actually see that with the help of all these researchers, France has around 53% of international publications, and you can actually see that India is here, and the interaction with India and France is not really small, but it's still small, so it can be still better if we have a lot of joint proposals, joint research going on. And actually, I don't know whether you know this fact that we have set up actually different kind of Indo-French centers in India, and we have Indo-French centers working under in different streams in India. So one if you know the Indian Institute of Science, we have the solid state chemistry unit where we have been having collaboration for so many years. And we also have a water cell in IISc where there is research on underground water management and things like that. So like that you have a lot of, and there's a mathematical institute, it's called IFCAM, which is present in IISc, which is a joint Indo-French center. So, and plus we also encourage a lot of research and collaboration on social sciences. So we have 2 institutes, one in Pondicherry, which is called the Institut Français Pondicherry, which encourages social science and ecological research, and also we have a Center for Humanities, which is in Delhi. Again, it's for social sciences. And so another major funding agency by the embassy is CEFIPRA, which I was speaking about. So CEFIPRA has huge projects, which is around 23 crores is the average budget for CEFIPRA, and CEFIPRA is an Indo-French collaborative effort. So the DST from the Indian side and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from France is actually putting in equal amount of money to CEFIPRA to fund research. So it is for, so they have different kinds of categories for funding research. So if you have a collaboration with France, you can have a 1:1 proposal, joint proposal, and they actually span a lot of areas. Again, mathematics, computer and information would be of your interest here. And so there are a lot of calls which comes in the CEFIPRA website. So if you keep going to that website, there will be a lot of running calls which will be there. So keep an eye on that. And so here is the budgeting of CEFIPRA. So when a faculty gets a CEFIPRA project, it will be for an average duration of 3 years, and the funding is around 1.45 crores. And the possibility of getting is about 10% because it's very competitive. But still, if you have a good partner in France, this is possible. So CEFIPRA doesn't only fund academic research, it also funds industrial and academic research. So we have a 2+2 scheme, where you need an academic and industrial partner from India and an academic and industrial partner from France. And these 4 people can jointly write this proposal. I think the deadline is right now in March, but then the calls keep coming, so you can always apply for that because you need some time to plan this out. And this is a very interesting platform because not many people will be able to gather these 4 partners. So if you have good partners in France, and if you have good industry by your side, then this works out. And CEFIPRA is a bit lenient here. They don't, they're not very strict about the 2+2 module. So even if it's 2+1, it would work. So if you have just one academic partner, one industrial partner in France, and one industrial partner and academic partner from India, this thing will work. And also there's another specific targeted PPP program by CEFIPRA is also there. And I think the call ends in July or something like that. So this is mainly for industry to industry collaboration. But even if it's industry to industry collaboration, even startups can form a part of that if you have a really nice proposal to pitch in. And the good thing is that the current focus for the next 2 years in CEFIPRA for this partnership programs is in aeronautics, automotive and biotechnology. So biotechnology, though I know it's not a biological institute, AI can be put to good use in biotechnology. So if you are already working on a medtech project, then you can actually use this platform to propose. So you will have to propose it from the angle of the biotechnology rather than the machine learning. So the machine learning and AI can be used like a solution to solve the question. So you will have to formulate the question in that way, and there you will have a bigger chance for getting this fellowship. And this fellowship is jointly done by the Technology Development Board in India and also the BPI France. So it's good money which is coming in, and also all the agencies which I showed, the INSERM, INRA, CNRS, all of these agencies, the funding money comes through CEFIPRA. Because it's otherwise complicated to deal with India. So because CEFIPRA is an Indian agency where the DST is also putting half the money, so all these institutes actually put in money through CEFIPRA and the money comes out. So you should also look for the calls of DST, INRIA and CNRS, and they have big cooperation going on in big data, IoT, AI and machine learning. So that's like a major focus area right now in France, as you know that everything is in AI. And also, so how do you get these partners? Now, if you don't have these partners already with you, the thing is that when you write a proposal, it has to show, it has to reflect your collaboration beforehand. Now, suddenly if you write a proposal without even meeting or knowing these people, it becomes really difficult to write a fruitful proposal which will be finally checked by the committee. So what we do here is to have multiple events organized on different themes by the embassy. So we organize different thematic workshops. Right now we finished one second edition of something called the Choose France Tour. So this is a platform that we provide for companies and also the academicians to come together and do a brainstorming session. So we invite startups, we invite established companies, we invite premier institutes of India who has a lot of funding, but we also take into consideration the private institutions, and things which are not IIT and ISC also, so that everybody gets a fair chance. Because always whatever we find is that the funding is always going to either ISC or IITs, or it's always like that. So we're trying to see, and when we visit universities, the private universities or smaller universities, we actually see that there's a lot of good research going on. It's that they don't have the money to take it forward. You always have money to start it up, but after that you don't know what to do. So we're trying to get industrial funding also by organizing these events, so that we put together people on round tables and have subtopics of discussion, and then so that you come up with a solid plan after 2.5 hours how you can work together, because by the time you would know each other. And then towards the end of this year, we have a big meeting called the Knowledge Summit in France, where we put together these proposals. We tell the government, okay, there is demand for these many things in this many field. So what can we do? Can we have a joint call together? Or how should we fund the research? Should we have a Indo-French cell? So, so we had a similar event in AI in last September, and we had Karthik and Uttam Kumar, right? Uttam, yeah. Yeah, so we had these two representatives from your institution, so they sort of know how these things work. So right now we are actually taking it to the next level, because we have now conclusions from that program. So now we will have more virtual conferences, because it's not always easier to have these workshops and have people come over and spend a lot of time. So now we sort of know the conclusions, so based on that we will have the smaller workshops and then build up from there, so that something can come up. And so that is one way. Another way of having these collaborations is CEFIPRA is giving fellowships or money for organizing workshops and seminars. So that is another easier way to gain a lot of French connection, because it gives around 25,000 euros for organizing the workshops. So it can be either academia workshops, where you are inviting from India academicians from France, or it can be academia industry workshops, where you are inviting industry people. So with this money you can easily invite at least 14 people from France. And if you have a space like this, then you don't have to spend money to arrange for a space. So you can actually completely utilize it for inviting people over, because that's always a constraint, like how do you have money for them to invite here. So once you have formed this consortium and you invite these people here, you can actually discuss with them the things, and this can be a 2-3 days workshop. And if you have a decent proposal, it's like a 3-page application. You can easily organize a conference here. There's much more for the faculty than for the students, so that you get to know these people, and then that's a good start. And once you have the CEFIPRA workshop grant, when you're applying for a joint proposal, they know that you have already utilized the system, you're well aware of the thing, so it'll be much more easier for you to get other grants. So that is one way. So, so these are the different kinds of fellowships and little helps that we from the embassy are doing to have this ecosystem up and running for bringing together academicians and industrialists and have a nice environment for them to work on. And other than that, for the students, what I wanted to tell is that I was just talking to Ramesh about this, but I don't know whether I will get an opportunity again to come and talk to you. So that's why I'm saying that we are planning to do an event by the end of this year, which is the influence of artificial intelligence in fashion. So fashion is very big for France, and then AI is even bigger. So the combination of these two things really work very well, because when you think about AI and fashion, there are some people who doesn't get the connect, and there are some people who get the connect. So we are planning to have this event in different modes actually. So one way is to have workshops where we bring together designers and people representing the management, and also mainly the people from IIM will be there. And we also have design schools like Srishti and Lisa. Lisa is our design school in India. So we also want, of course, the machine learning guys and the AI people to come together in this workshop and then put in their ideas. So we want to not only focus on retailing, because that is something which everyone knows, that all these companies like Myntra is also our partner in this. So where you put AI into use for trying out clothes and then have the whole virtual thing on. So other than that, we also want to bring in a new perspective of how the designer's creativity is affected by AI, whether AI is positively or negatively contributing to that, and if it's negative, how can you turn the negative into positives by bringing out the entire story in your design. And the next aspect I want to really, I mean, it's quite ambitious to have that on board, but then I think it's very interesting to, even if you can't work on it, to brainstorm, is about the fashion sustainability. That is, when people talk about fashion in Paris or New York, there are designers who set up, okay, this has to be the trend of the year and things like that. But then there are these weavers and people who are growing the crops for making these textiles and designs. So they are not aware of what's happening in Paris and New York. So they actually cultivate, they have a pattern and everything, expecting that they get the same set of buyers that year. But then everything changes, the fashion trend changes, and there are no buyers. So they're left with all this raw materials. There's a lot of wastage of materials which is going on. So it's a real pity that we are not able to coordinate these two processes. So if they are coordinated, one thing is that the weavers don't lose money, because anyways they're getting very less paid. And as you know, all the major brands like Zara and Chanel, everyone is like outsourcing from countries like India. And then if AI can contribute in some way in predicting it and work with these two partners, how can you do that? How can you generate something? And I think this is a problem which can be dealt with in India, because India is one of the markets for getting outsourced in this sector. So that's why we want the management people, the management students also to join this whole hackathon. So we will have a hackathon also to brainstorm and create something from the part of the students. So one thing is to also interest the students in such multidisciplinary research projects, so that they don't think in one dimension. So they know that, okay, when I'm talking about AI, it's just not about creating some codes and doing it. It's also about selling it, marketing it, managing it, and whether and emotionally how is it involved with this entire process of creativity, things like that. So I will anyway send out a detailed draft and the program things to Karthik and Ramesh, and then probably they will get it across to you, so that we expect your participation also. I think it'll be really fun to do it, this entire thing. So with that, I'm actually closing my talk. I think, I hope I was a bit clear. If you have any confusion, you can always either ask me or write to me and Jerome. And these are our email IDs. You can just take it down if you have any questions. Thank you.